What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another episode here on the Piscifun YouTube channel. Today, we are going to talk about something that I think is going to help you guys a lot. So you know that moment when the water temperatures get really, really cold and you start to wonder if there's even any fish left in that body of water? Well, I have an answer for you. I have 3 lures that are going to help you catch more big smallmouth when the water gets cold. And not only smallmouth, but they also double as great walleye lures in cold water as well. So let's go ahead and let's jump right in. All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's jump right in to our top 3 cold water smallmouth baits. Now, when you go out for cold water smallmouth, probably the most effective technique is going to be dragging a sucker. But some people don't like fishing with live bait. Some people like the challenge of using artificial. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you guys specifically about my top 3 artificial baits to catch cold water smallmouth. So number 1 is going to be a hair jig. So as you can see, this hair jig looks pretty big and poofy, but basically what happens when you stick this guy in the water, all of this marabou is going to taper down real thin, and it's essentially going to look like some sort of a bug or a leech in the water. So that bait gives a very natural presentation. If you have ever fished cold water smallmouth, you guys know that they can become very, very finicky when that water cools down, especially when you get underneath that 50-degree mark. Now, if you want to catch fish, you're going to have to change your presentation. So the things you were doing in summer and in fall or in early fall are not going to be nearly as effective when those water temperatures are dropping towards early November. Now, this little guy right here is a very specific technique. So a lot of people try this for the first time and they struggle with it and they say, I'm not going to use it anymore. Well, it's very important, number 1, to have the correct setup when you're throwing a hair jig, and number 2, to have the correct cadence when you're throwing a hair jig. So as for the setup, my setup is a 7'2" Piscifun Serpent series, and that's a medium light and extra fast action. Now, the reason you want that longer rod and that medium light is because it gives you enough whip to be able to throw that bait out as far as you can or as you need to. And typically when you're using this bait, this is usually, a 1/8 ounce. If you're fishing deep water, maybe a 1/4 ounce. So you really need that extra whip on that rod to be able to bomb that hair jig out into that water. Now, when I talk about cadence, you really need to pay attention to how you are fishing this bait. The big pops, the really aggressive stuff, that stuff is out the window now. Now it's all about being subtle. So what does subtle mean? That means you need to slow down a lot. So basically when you cast this thing out, you're gonna whip it out there, and let's say you suspect the fish being on the bottom in 15 feet. So you're gonna figure out what the fall rate of this is. You're gonna go ahead and count that down, 1,000, 2, 1,000, count it down to the proper depth. And the goal is to simply swim this very gently above the bottom. And so you just want this thing to just kind of swim real gentle across the bottom, and all that smallmouth does, it kind of just trails it and just real gently slurps it in. So those tube hits that you were used to, those crankbait bites, those aggressive jerkbait bites, most of those when the water gets really cold are going to fade away, and a really subtle gentle bait like this is going to work wonders for targeting those big cold water smallmouth. All right, we are going to jump right into bait number 2 for cold water smallies. Now, bait number 2 is a little bit different in the sense that you're not going to be really subtly swimming it, but your pops and your rips are going to be very gentle. So number 2 on our list right here is a blade bait. Now, my favorite blade baits have some sort of a bait fish profile. As you can see, both of these blades are 2 different colors. We have one here that's a gold color, and then we have one here that's like a natural crawfish, kind of an orange color. And I really like that bait fish profile. I find that it is much more effective than the other blade baits, at least for smallmouth. When it comes to walleyes, it doesn't seem to matter as much, but that profile seems to work very well. In addition to this one, I also like the big dude blades as well. Those have that same kind of rounded bait fish profile. When you're using this one, you're gonna wanna use a medium rod or even a medium light, like a 6'8", 6'10", something like that. Personally, I like the Serpent from Piscifun in that 6'10" medium. It's got a soft enough tip that when I hook the fish, these little tiny hooks are not going to pull out. But it is strong enough that I can still battle them successfully. So when you're looking at this bait, what I generally like to do is in you know, 10 feet, 10 to 15 feet, I'll probably throw a 1/4 or a 3/8 ounce blade bait. And then when you get above that 15-foot range, when you're going on those really deep rock bluffs or something like that, and you're trying to get down to the bottom, then I'll move it up to a 1/2 ounce. But I would say 80% of the time, I'm using a 1/4 or a 3/8 ounce bait. And basically what you're gonna do when you cast this out, you're gonna cast it out, you're gonna let it make its way to the bottom. It kind of has like a weird circular fall down to the bottom. And then when it gets there, this is where most people screw up using a blade bait. And again, this is another one of those baits in cold water that people will go out and they'll start using it and they'll say, ah, this bait doesn't work, it's not for me. Well, what you're trying to do is you are trying to literally just pop it like this. Okay, it's just that little, you're talking, my wrist is only flexing about 3 inches. Okay, and the goal for that is you want this bait to be down there laying on the bottom, and you simply want it to go vibrate, vibrate, fall. Vibrate, vibrate, fall. Now you need to feel that through your rod. So you're gonna, whatever that rip is, whatever that motion is, just for you to feel brr, brr, that's what you're looking for. If you're feeling more than 1 or 2 vibrations on your little pop, then you are overworking the blade bait, and now you're using it for more of an early fall or a summer technique. In the fall, when it's getting cold and the water temps are starting to come down, and guys, when I'm talking about these temperatures, I'm talking about when the water temps are falling into that, you know, definitely under 50, but even more so like that 45 down to 38, like that real cold fall water. I'm telling you, the fishing can be phenomenal. You think because it's cold that it's going to be really slow, but in fact, if you bust one of these out, it can be a very deadly day on the water. So grab a blade bait, go out there and give some cold water smallies a shot. Bait number 3 in our cold water arsenal. This is a bait that I personally think is overlooked way too much for cold water fishing. I think it's a bait that a lot of anglers shy away from because it's an old school bait, but it is very deadly. And you know, again, I talk about that bait fish pattern, that bait fish profile, and you'll notice that when you're going through and you're using these baits, they're all going to kind of resemble that style. Other than the, you know, that hair jig is really more of a bug, but if you're using a white hair jig, which also works very well, that white hair jig resembles a minnow very well. When we talk about our next bait, what we are talking about is simply a spoon. You can see there's quite a bit of flash there just with a little bit of light that's outside today. Now these spoons, again, kind of just like those blade baits, I will use them in different depths with different sizes. So right here in my right hand, I have got a 1/2 ounce Castmaster in that gold color. Gold is a very good color for smallmouth, especially in the fall when they're looking for bait fish. That flash of that gold is very deadly. But you can see the size difference there, guys. This is your 1/2 ounce, this is your 1/4 ounce. So that 1/2 ounce is going to be a little bit bigger profile, and it's obviously heavier, so it's gonna get down to those deeper fish a lot better. And that 1/4 ounce is gonna be for your shallower presentation, again, under that 15-foot mark. Now, basically with a spoon, again, you're gonna use something in that, you know, 6'10" to 7'2". You want something that's a medium action, fast. And for all these presentations, you can use a 2000 or a 3000 spinning reel. Personally, I really like the Carbon X or the Alloy X. Both work very well for these techniques. You want a good drag system because when those smallies are in that cold water, they're very hardy, meaning when you hook them, they're going to be fighting pretty darn hard. So your reel, definitely you want it to be, you know, a good drag system style reel. So when you're going out there and you're casting this spoon, you're going to throw that spoon out there to where you think the fish are hanging out. That spoon basically is going to flutter. That's what you can kind of see, this angled design. It's kind of got a beveled edge right here, and it's kind of beveled there and then flat on this side. Well, what happens with that spoon when it's falling is you cast and it basically goes and it falls all the way down. So right off the bat, these smallmouth, and if you're fishing a clear or dirty lake, they're seeing this flashy thing falling down, and immediately their predatory instincts are, bait fish is dead, I need to eat it. The trigger on the fall is really cool with this one, and oftentimes you'll go to pop it the first time, there's already gonna be a fish that pinned it to the bottom. What you're gonna do with this is you're kind of just gonna do like more of a slow rip. And it's hard to describe without, so if you take your normal rip, where you're like ripping a rip and wrap or something like that, well, this, you're just kind of gonna do like a slow 2-foot lift. And you're just gonna lift it, so it's kind of gonna go up, and then it's gonna do its little thing, and it's gonna go down. And then it's just gonna go up, and then it's gonna fall down. And every time you do that, like I said, that gold color is going to be putting off that flash. You can see it's actually overcast today, but you can see there's still a flash from what little bit of light there is. So these are going to be phenomenal for those smallmouth situations, especially in clear water, but they also work in stained water as well. And so as that thing is being pulled up and then flashing on the way down, those fish are going to come along. When it settles on the bottom, they're actually going to pin it to the bottom. So you're going to go to you're going to go to lift it again, and it's going to be kind of a double clutch hook set. And a blade bait and a spoon are very similar in that sense with the double clutching, because basically every time you go to work it, you know, you're going slack for a moment. And when you hit that slack, sometimes you can feel that bite, but very often what's gonna happen is that fish is gonna come along, they're gonna pin it to the bottom, and you're gonna go to do your next motion or your next cadence, and that fish is already gonna have the bait, and you're gonna be setting the hook into it. So you're gonna feel it, and then you're gonna set the hook. So it's kind of a double clutch, boom, and then you got the fish on. Well guys, that is a wrap for today's video. I hope that these cold water smallmouth tips were beneficial to you. I have no doubt that if you go out and you take these baits that I've talked about and you work them, like I said, that you will have some success in cold water situations. As always, you have to take these techniques, you have to adapt them to your body of water, and the number one thing is really locating those fish. If you guys like this video, please go down below, hit that like button, and drop me a comment. Let me know what your favorite cold water smallmouth lure is, and we'll see if we have the same opinions. As always, make sure you hit that notifications bell, because we have some pretty cool stuff coming up. We're gonna be doing some ice fishing giveaways and things like that. So when you hit that notification bell, it allows you to get the first notifications whenever we drop a video here on the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.